Hey guys, as discussed in Telegram channel, in this video I'm going to share a very good moving average crossover based trading strategy. I already shared a sample video in Telegram channel, but for this video I'm going to discuss that video in detail with live examples from the gold chart. I already tested this strategy on gold chart. If you want to follow this method, you have to listen the steps very carefully. I already uploaded a video on moving average crossover on this channel. That moving average crossover is different, but this one is, I think, more accurate as per my experience. So what you have to do, you have to use this strategy in any software. Like I'm going to use it on TradingView. You can also use this strategy in MetaTrader also. So what you have to do, for this strategy you need two moving average. So if you are going to use this strategy in TradingView, you just have to head over to indicator, and in indicator you have to find smooth moving average, this one. So first one that we are going to apply a SMMA, or smooth moving average. The period of this smooth moving average will be, you have to change it from here. The first that we are going to apply is 200 period moving average. Let me change the color. The next that we need for this strategy is another smooth moving average. The length of this smooth moving average will be 50. I think many of you already know this combination or this crossover method, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to do another you can say change or another modification in this strategy. So what you have to do, you have to apply another indicator. So I'm going to use CPR, central pivot range. So you can find CPR indicator in the TradingView. If you are not able to find the indicator, you can message me on Telegram, or you can comment in the comment section. So this is the CPR. This is also available on MetaTrader. So for the setup, you need two moving average, both smooth. One is 200 period and one is 50 period moving average. Another indicator that I'm going to use is the CPR. So for CPR, I need historical CPR so that I can explain historical examples with you. So there are some rule that you have to keep in mind before following this method. Also, I advise you to follow the money management and the steps that I'm going to discuss. So what you have to do, actually, you have to wait for the crossover. Let me start with the example from the previous session. Also, I want to add here that this is a good, you can say good method, and because this method do not generate frequent entries. As you can see, this is the crossover, recent crossover, this one. Before that, you can see we do not have any crossover. So as you can see, so the failure rate of this method is very low if you use properly and if you follow the method with proper money management. So as you can see, this is the example, this is the crossover, and I'm going to discuss in detail now. So as you can see, this is the crossover. What you have to do, you have to find the crossover. As you can see, this is the crossover of 50 to 200. The 50 is now crossing 200 from upside to downside, this one, at this point. So whenever this crossover happen, that means 50 from above cross 200 moving average. This is coming from upside. So whenever this scenario happen, this indicate us a bearish signal, and this indicate that trend is going in downward direction. So what you have to do, you have to think about the sell entry only. Now what you have to do, like whenever this crossover happen, you have to enter on the crossover point. If we discuss at this point, one more thing, the time frame that I'm going to discuss for this method is 15-minute, and I tested this on 15-minute, and 15-minute method and time frame, sorry, 15-minute time frame works well for this method. So as you can see, after the crossover, you can see the crossover happen at approx at anywhere like this point. You can consider 1780, or like this one, this level. This is at around 178182 price level. So your first entry should be at the crossover. Like you can enter here. Now after entering, you just have to think about the sell. You do not have to think about the buy, and your stop loss will be above the CPR. See, every day this will going to help you. You can take many entries, but you have to follow the method properly. Like for this day we have a crossover, previous day we have a crossover over here, but if you are going to enter on the same day, then your stop loss will be on the higher side of this CPR. This is the TC, top central range. So you have to put your stop loss above this level. And if you entering here and you are considering this as a stop loss, as you can see, this is a big difference. So you have to manage the risk reward properly. Like if you are entering at 1782 and this is 1800, so this is a big stop loss. Now if you are considering this as a stop loss, your reward should be that much bigger. You have to hold the entry till your target. Like you, if you are considering 5 point stop loss, then you have to consider the 5 point profit. Like if you are considering 18 point, sorry, 18 point stop loss, then your target should be 18 point. So as you can see at this point, we entered in short, and as you can see, after this crossover we have a good and big decline. So this method works well on this entry. Now if you do not want to, like if you do not want to hold for that long and you want to use it on day trade, then how you gonna use this method? Now what you have to do, like this crossover already happened on this day, on this date. So what you have to do now, for the next day you have to think about the sell, because we have a crossover of sell side. Now you just have to look for the sell entries only. Now as you can see, in the next day what you have to do, you do not have to enter in US session. You have to remember that you do not have to wait for the US session entries. You just have to trade in the euro or in the Japan session, Asian session. So what you have to do, you have to wait for the retracement toward the 50 moving average. So whenever it retraced toward the 50 moving average, as you can see, after the crossover it retraced back to this point, and then it fall back. You can say easy, $5-6 easy move. So you can catch that move. Now next day what you have to remember, if the next day CPR is below to previous CPR, and because we are in bearish trend, we have to think about the sell. And now your stop loss will be above 200 moving average, above 200 moving average, and you have to wait at least two candle close two 15-minute candle close above 200 period moving average, and you can take the sell entries. Or if you want to take a big risk, you have to wait for the crossover. Like if it is going to crossover, then you should close your trade. But if you want to take a small risk, then you have to put your stop loss about two candle close on 200 period moving average, because we are in downtrend now. And one thing that you have to also keep in mind is the distance between, or you can say the difference between 250 period moving average. Whenever the difference, I already said this type of crossover before in channel. So if you remember that, if the distance between these two moving average increases, this indicate that the trend is strong, and there is a possibility that trend is going to follow these moving average, because moving average is basically trend following indicator. So you have to follow the trend, and you have to keep eye on this difference. So let me explain bit more. So as you can see, in this next day, our CPR is below to previous CPR, and our stop loss shall be above this 200 moving average. And you can see we also got a good decline from here. Now in the next day also, sorry, we were here. So as you can see, in the next day also we have to think about the sell. And as I said, do not try to trade in US session. You can open your sell entry, like in Japan session. You can see you always have to wait some retracement toward 200, because your stop loss going to be in higher side. So if you are going to enter in the retracement, your stop loss either will be above this level, or you have to wait for to candle close about 200 period moving average. So as you can see, initially on this day, trade open at this price level uh, here, and then it retraced back to CPR. You can enter here or here, and you can as per your entry and as per your risk reward, you can close it here or here. If you want to trade, that I do not recommend on this method, because in US session there are you can you already know that in US session mostly driven by the news, so you have to avoid that. But it works very well. You can say in US session it is working, but from my view, do not try to trade on this or on US session with this method. Now if we scroll further, like in the next day, see it retraced back. And then if you want to enter on the open, that is also a good deal. You have to put your stop loss, and you have to choose the target as per your risk reward, because you are day trading. Then you do not have to hold that much. You have to manage your risk, and you have to manage your like your profit and loss as per your style. So you have to follow proper risk management. As you can see, this working well, the distance is increasing. If this indicate that trend is strong downward trend, and you can see this is the crossover on this date, and now you can see we do not have any crossover. And the this CPR also indicating that previous day is closing below, sorry, previous is high, next is low. Because if you see CPR level, this is descending. That that daily I said in Telegram channel. This day the previous is above, then down, descending, then descending, then descending. So when you have to stop entering in sell, now you can think about sell till this is in downtrend. But when it like this day also you can take sell entry, and you can see before US session you can if you enter in the open, you can still get the profit. That totally depend on how much lot you are going to add before getting into profit, or before you getting out of this trade. So what now, when you have to stop now, if any CPR like this one uh, open above previous CPR, then you do not have to enter in sell, and you have to wait for another crossover. On that day you do not have to open your entries, and in the next day you can see we have a another ascending CPR, and at that day we have a crossover in the buy side. Then you can look for the buy, and you can take the buy entries. And if we talk about today's case, you can see, and you have to keep another point in mind. If the open is above CPR, you have to then only think about the buy if the crossover in buy side, because this day today, see, there is the today's trading session is totally driven by the news and the fundamental side. So these days you have to you can say avoid trading on this method. But as you can say, our trend not able to break out the CPR level, so we do not have to look for the buy, because for buy you have to remember that if the candle is closing above CPR and not closing below, this indicate that this is a buy trend. And if, like for this example, overall if in previous case we were in sell trend, but on this day candles are not able to close below the CPR, so the sell is not valid in this case. Let me give you another example from the previous session. Hope this will help you. But if you are not able to get what I am saying, then you can ask me in Telegram, and I will try to do another video on this method, because this method really good if you follow this, because this method do not generate false signal and do not generate a frequent signal like this one. This is the crossover on buy side at this price level. Let me explain this to you. So as you can see, at this price level we have a buy signal, because 50 from below crossing 200, and after crossing at this level you can enter over here, and you can say straight into the profit. So if you want to hold, then you have to think only about buy, because we have a good buy signal, and we do not have any further crossover to down. See, there are two stop losses that you have to consider. Either you have to wait for candle close below 200, or you have to wait for the closer below two candle closing below CPR. So in this case, like this is the buy side, but in the next day, when do you have to enter? See, as I already told you, either wait for retracement like this point, but this is the US session. But for the next day, you have to wait for the retracement toward 50 period moving average. And as you can see, let me join. At this point you can see uh, candles coming toward the 50 period moving average, but after closing one candle, another candle rejected this entry at this level and closing above 50 period moving average. So overall we are in buy, so we have to think about the buy. We can enter here, and you can see we have a good at this price it is 1722, and this is 1727. So easy $5 move. So you do not have to enter on every chances. You have to manage the money. Your main goal is to follow the method and to manage the money. Do not try to enter on every trade or every entry. You have to remember that. So in the next day you can see our CPR is below. So this the method is not valid. You do not have to trade on this day. Next day also you do not have to trade. Next day we have CPR now above, and we the signal is in buy side because we do not have any crossover from upside to downside. That means the signal is still in the buy side. So now the CPR is above from the previous CPR. So now you have to look for the buy. You can enter on the open, or you have to wait for the pullback like this, but this is US session, so you can enter on the open, or you have to wait for 1 2 candle close near to CPR, then you can enter and you can book. You can see next day also we have a ascending CPR and trade open here. You can see good profit again. If you enter here on the open, or on the closing of candle on the CPR side, above CPR, you can enter here. You can see a good movement, and you can see, so there are multiple examples that I can explain, but I'm not going to discuss because video is going to be lengthy. So if you like this method, and if you understand, if you are not able to understand, then you can message me. I will explain more in next video. So this is a very good crossover strategy. I personally follow this method for scalping, or for, you can say, swing trade also. So I will discuss more about this if you want to ask more. So this is it for now. We will meet in next video. Thank you.